The Terra Classic development team just gave us a detailed rundown of their plans to dramatically increase the cost of Terra Classic in the near future. Duration arose. In this video, we will discuss the possible burn date when Binance will burn Repeg USD and Luna together, attract millions of new people to the ecosystem, and maybe reach the price target seen before the crash. Okay, let's jump right into the video. The Classic development team's plan to revitalize and explode was laid out in a paper titled A Path to Recovery for Luna Classic, which Edward Kim and Alex Forshaw, two of the primary developers and members of Terra Rebels and the Terra Classic development team, revealed just a few hours ago in the classic Terra Luna tradition. So, it's best to go right into it. We'll kick things off with a timeline, a high-level plan for how the group intends to get things done, and this can be seen as occurring in three distinct phases. First, getting the burn tax to shift to USD, and third, establishing a robust on-chain presence and new applications for Luna. The tax is typically expected in the traditional September of 2022, and I will specify the specific date later on in this video. In 2022 and 2023, the team hopes to have perhaps repegged us back to Terra Classic, such as us back to $1, and allow that algorithmic stablecoin powering to actually function, which would bring so much volume back to Terra Classic, as we'll describe later. Then, by the latter half of 2023, the thriving community will begin drawing value back to the blockchain. Now that Luna Classic has gained tens of thousands of new subscribers, Terra Classic hopes to implement a technical pivot that will allow for even more initiatives to be built on top of the platform. So, let's take a look at each of these parts and see what kind of impact they might have on Luna Classic's price and sales volume. In order to demonstrate the progression of the burn, the 1.2% reduction in supply is presented first. Yet, as you can see down below, the date that the 1.2% burn will be activated on-chain is expected to be around about September 20th, as we covered in the prior video, and this has now been confirmed. It goes on to say that we must also apply it off-chain. It appears that the centralized exchange Binance will enable this, along with the many other exchanges will require the 1.2% burn to be implemented manually, as we've discussed in several videos. As we've discussed in prior videos, this is the first step toward reviving the Luna Classic ecosystem and reaching some of those lofty price goals, such as a cent 10 for penny $1, $10, and $100. It's abundantly clear that all of those costs are exorbitant. It's very hypothetical and relies on an absurdly high probability of success. However, the team intends to proceed in this fashion. Consequently, the first procedure is the burn required to lessen the circulation supply, as is seen below. Assuming daily transaction volumes of between $2.50 billion and $3 billion, we may possibly burn through 2 trillion to 4 trillion tokens in the first month at current burn rates. If the price suddenly skyrockets, we can purchase back and burn less, but only if the volume stays the same. However, these are the kinds of figures we need, and they represent a significant advance in the right direction. On the other hand, I've mentioned in more than one video how the burn may reach a plateau if prices keep going higher but sales keep going down once the boom period dies. And to even have a shot at making a cent, 10 cents, or $1 or greater price targets, we need to be burning over 99% of the supplies we've been talking about in the videos. And Edward Kim has a scheme, a way to repack, to accomplish this goal once again. As you can clearly see, returning USD to Terra Classic is part of the plan to reclaim the world. This would merge the two systems, giving Terra Classic its pre-crash worth as an algorithmic stablecoin and giving the new system an inherent value. If you want to see a significant decrease in supply, you need to see the kind of volume we were doing every day, which was billions of dollars. We are aware that the $9.5 billion in bad debt held in Terra Class at current USD exchange rates is the primary factor preventing us from repacking at this time. This is the revolving supply, or how much we'd have to pay back to investors before we could pay back our class at $1 USD. It's a debt, like I mentioned. From a business standpoint, there are numerous approaches to take. They argue that if the decentralized, algorithmic stablecoin's major pillars can be failure, evidence, and significantly wider scope than the previous Terra Classic, then a debt restructure to bring it back to life makes logical. The efforts don't bankrupt the traditional society that would have to pay it, and the reserve can prevent a death cycle even if the financial system as a whole collapses. As a result, we understand the key point. For Turner, the death spiral began as soon as the egg was cracked, with the supply calendar expanding and the peg continuing to loosen until the entire system finally gave way. They tried to back it with the money they had, but it wasn't enough. As a result, debt elimination is a priority over there. Possible explanation: a modification of the terms of the debt. As can be seen, a sustainable renaissance of the Lunar Classic ecosystem will be underpinned by Restructuring of Terra Classic's $9.5 billion of bad debt, which offers USD holders material consideration for their current USD holdings and represents the best efforts of the Lunar Classic community. In the end, this could cause the Lunar Classic supply to be burned through the original minting method at an exponentially quicker rate. They're basically stating that if we go through the debt restructuring issue, we won't have to pay back the full $9.5 billion in debt, or that it would be broken up into more manageable chunks. With this, we can begin making payments in earnest. This time, however, the result will be nearly the reverse. The price will rise exponentially. For example, the peg will reach $1 very rapidly, reimbursing us for our investment in Terra Luna Classic and reviving the system as a whole. And as it says above, this is what we need to accomplish in order to achieve large transaction volume of $4 trillion. A classic as the billions of dollars in transaction volume we are seeing right now are unquestionably FOMO. And I believe that when the stronger time dies, we may, if we haven't got actual utility set, go back to some of the numbers we are seeing pre the hype, at around approximately $150 million a day. Again, at that point we wouldn't be burning a huge number of tokens each year, but it would still be a decent quantity if it's consistent, and it would be difficult to bring the secondary supply down to some of the levels that people want to see in the near future. Thus, not only would all the projects that have been developed or being built on Classic be able to run, but so much of the usefulness that we once had on the blockchain would be restored, simply by repaying us to USD and reallowing staking, which we already have. The resurgence of interest has restored its viability, pushing market capitalizations back into the tens of billions they were before the crash, and paving the way for the return of the millions of users that had previously frequented the network. Currently, we have over 5 million wallets, and we're adding roughly 8,000 new ones every day. This is more than the daily increase of roughly 2.3 thousand wallets for Cardano, a top 10 cryptocurrency. This in addition to the size of our town. New initiatives can certainly be attracted to the ecosystem when there is sufficient hype. But as it says, it's all about the repegging. Terra Classic project development involves ensuring high staking incentives and